It's time for the Dynamics podcast. My name is Fredrik Sætre, and joining us today are MVPs Luca Pellegrini and Volker Deuss. We're going to talk about onboarding for Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Financials and Operations Enterprise Edition. It's going to be an episode with onboarding, development, backstories, all the way back to Dynamics 3.0. So enjoy.
This is the Dynamics Podcast, Episode 15, recorded May 16, 2017. Cloud Implementation, with Luca Pellegrini and Volker Deuss.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Dynamics Podcast. My name of course is Fredrik Sætre, and joining me today, as always, is my fellow MVP and colleague, and also the Picard to my Riker. Hello Tommy.
Hi, Fredrik. How are you?
Hello. How are you? So tomorrow, it's the 16th of May today. That means tomorrow we are putting on our nicest suits, and we're going to celebrate that we finally got free of the grasp of the Danish and the Swedes, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
That was back in 1814. Norway is a pretty young country, around 200 years old.
I have a fun fact. We got the second oldest constitution in the world.
Oh, that's cool.
I think, but only bested by the Americans, of course. So you got your suit ready? It's ironed and ready to go?
I've ironed my shirt before I came here. That's correct.
I'm going to do it.
I had to.
Yeah. You got a bunad?
No, I don't have like a national outfit. I like just a black suit and a tie.
Good. So that's what we're doing tomorrow, all day. It's a national holiday. It's kind of, it's like 4th of July on steroids. I feel it.
Norway is, we're good at this with the flags and the music and everything. Yeah.
We're very patriotic.
Absolutely.
But we can all be Norwegians, so we got to have some guests joining us. So say hello to our panel today. Hi, guys. Volker and Luca is joining us. Maybe we'll start. We'll start up here with you, Luca. Maybe you can tell us who you are, what you do, and how'd you get there.
Absolutely. My name is Luca Pellegrini, and I work for QuantiQ Technology in London as Dynamics Technical Architect. I've been working with AX, the old dear AX, since 2008. Working from version, I would say 3.0 up towards this new version coming out, 365 for operations and finance.
And oh yeah, almost got it. We're gonna get into that. Maybe you'll do an introduction, Volker. Who are you and what do you do?
Hi there, my name is Volker, and I'm working for GWS, which is a Germany-based company and a GI suite, global I suite. And yeah, working with AX since 2011. We started working, on 2012. So, and in a technical role, pretty much, that's me. Yeah.
And you said you were an ISV?
Yes.
Any what type of solutions do you have?
Well, basically we have one big solution which adds functionality for the wholesales and trades business to AX, and we're mostly in the European market right now with that, and quite successful. Yeah.
We are shameless about plugging our companies in the Dynamics podcast. So anything about your company, Luca?
We are QuantiQ Technology based in London, great company to work. We just ranked 32nd in the best place to work UK.
Wow, congratulations.
Great achievement, great people, super challenging and interesting projects, so worth a shot.
Yeah, so let's dive into it, should we? So you mentioned in the beginning, Luca, that you worked on AX, or the solution formerly known as AX, which now, when they came out with only AX, kind of like the Madonna version of the naming conventions, it was hard to, and then it got current version, and then it got Dynamics 365, and now we got operations. And we had on the marketing manager for Microsoft for ERP a couple of episodes. I think it was in February, right, Tommy? Is it February?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And I kind of wrote him a little bit hard on that. Tommy actually had to interrupt me and say, "Hang on, you've said enough now, Fredrik," because I cut that part out. And in that part, I actually suggest that we call it Enterprise and Business. So here we are. New naming convention coming out from the 1st of June? It's called Dynamics.
July, should be 1st of July.
1st of July.
1st of July, I read to you.
It's going to be known as Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Financials and Operation Enterprise Edition.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Quick and simple, right?
Yeah, I've said that a lot of times in my car, going back and forth. So it rolls off quite easily now. But he actually talked. I heard Pepijn talk about editions, and I really liked it. So how do you feel about the naming now? Does it clear up anything, or is it too much?
I would say it's still a very long name for a product, but looking in the direction that Microsoft is taking on this, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because they're trying to going into a direction where they can split the massive beast that used to be AX into smaller products, doing different things like talent that's going to be released soon, like retail. And the idea, I think, behind this is to give partners and customers the options of adopting the cloud and edge technology, that if you keep it into separate, smaller products, you can achieve this. But keeping the massive beast, it becomes a bit difficult, right?
Yeah, it is. They want to parse it up and cut it into smaller pieces. At least that's what Satya Nadella was pretty adamant about at the Business Forward. I don't know if you saw that one. There was a big Business Forward, and that was the first time he actually talked about it. Oh, I thought it was so cool that he actually showed the old coding, because do you know he was kind of into this?
Yes.
He did exactly what we're doing today. Back in '93, exactly. He showed just a clip of it, and then I had to Google it. It's on my Twitter feed, but he actually was demonstrating back in the days in '93 an integration with Excel to an AS400. Which is like an old type of ERP manufacturing system. Yeah, and that was so cool. So it's nice to know that the man on top has really been down in the trenches with us mortal people as well. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
I mean, so the name will always have some sort of association with it. So whenever I heard the word enterprise, I immediately think of
Star Trek.
Any other type of software out. No, yeah, right. Star Trek. No, any other type of software out there that has like the enterprise edition on it. And so you would have like SQL, you would have Windows, there's so many other Microsoft products that has the enterprise edition on it. So I don't know. I didn't like the operations word because they were like splitting financials and operations, but then operations did have a financial aspect of it. So
what I if you haven't heard the episode and you don't want to go back to seeing it, but the thing for me that really jars it was that if a CFO of a big company went into the Dynamics.com webpage and looked for financials, they got a pretty low-end solution, basically, for financials. And they didn't want to go into, of course, they didn't click on operations because they're into finance. So, and then they moved on to SAP or any of the other big competitors, right? So it's better now that they have an enterprise edition and a business edition. I think it's more clear. It's if you want it to be clear, you also have to fill in the blanks of describing the product, and if you're not allowed to call it ERP, financials and operations is kind of a trade-off, I guess.
Well, I'm not like a salesperson. I'm more like a technical guy. So I think it was Alex, one of the other MVPs, that pointed out that it's not going to be easy finding stuff on the solution you're trying to work on if the namings are so similar, and the only difference is like business solution or enterprise edition.
It's a Dynamics
business edition.
Well, that's not
But
the
anyway,
product. It's Dynamics
so
365.
what I search for is Dynamics 365 for operations. Normally, I find something, and when I search for AX, I find something. And like a technical guy, I need to. I'm gonna find. I'm gonna look for how to solve my technical problem. So, how the CFO thinks is not my realm, to be perfectly honest. So, that's my. It has to grow on me, I guess. I don't know what you, Volker, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the main pain point on this is that it's hard to Google it, because if you search for Dynamics 365, you will find lots of things that are about CRM actually. And you see that on ideas.dynamics.com already. There's like Dynamics 365 as a category there, but it means CRM. And that's one thing to it, and I think that was mentioned on Twitter too. Someone told that it's not Googleable like that, and I would say so too. It's hard to find things. Still, if I try to look something up, I use Google or Bing, and I type in AX or AX7, and hope to find something. And usually it works better than typing in Dynamics 365 for operations. And with the rebranding now, I think the problem is too that they lower NAV a little, because it's like the same thing. It does the same, but it doesn't do it like enterprise style, right? And well, I come from the NAV world, so it should be still separated. It's clear if it's NAV and it's AX, and both are ERP systems, right? And they have their pluses and things that are not as good as with the other one. But I think if it's business edition and enterprise edition, it's hard to separate them.
Yeah, maybe the problem here is that we have to sort of be both thinking about the future and what the future holds. Like we just said, they're going to split up the functionality. But then again, we also have all of these solutions out there today that we need to support. And I just hope that I will be able to find stuff, basically searching for X7 if I can. Because you're right, if I search for Dynamics 365, I'm going to get all sorts of stuff. And I guess I'm going to keep tagging my blog post with X7 for as long as I can.
Yeah, I do the same thing too.
Yeah, let's do that for the ones who need to find it through any type of search engine. But what Microsoft is, it's really a clear signal of what Microsoft really wants it to do. They want to tear down the borders, and that did you and Tommy, did you listen to that Business Forward talk with?
I didn't catch that. I tried, but I couldn't.
He said kind of three things that was major, and the first thing, they really wrote this down and said it in clear text. They're going to move away from the big apps, and they're going to move into smaller, separate apps on the common data service. That's basically what they're doing, and the individual apps, and it's going to be a great podcast in the future where we talk about concrete apps. So we got to get into the talent next, maybe. Well,
yeah,
of course,
we refer to it as a journey, right? They call it a journey. We're on a journey.
Yeah.
So that's also the kind of interesting to bring Volker and Luca on. They've been part of operations implementations, and I want to tap into their experience with this, because I know also that some of the functionality is not really there yet. So I guess it could be interesting to hear the struggles. I say struggles, and I feel the sort of bad taste in my mouth, because some people don't want to talk about it like a struggle. Don't want to talk about it like an interesting journey. So I don't know, Luca, would you like to start telling us a little bit about your experience with onboarding?
Sure. Yeah, we've been involved with this customer of ours for almost 2 years now. So we started since the days of AX7, precisely CTP7 was. And we went through the journey of moving CTP8, the actual RTM, which was the public version, and then the upgrade to 365. And yeah, there's been some struggle because, of course, it's a new product and you are under the TAP program. So most of the things are tested, but are only, within Microsoft walls. So it's not on the actual businesses yet. So it's when you start using like massive workloads, massive amount of data for data migration especially, and you can struggle. One of the things that everyone is happy about now are the data entities, right, for integrations and for data migrations. Yeah, when I started there were 200 data entities. Now you've got around 1,000 and life is great. At the beginning was quite the struggle because most of the entities weren't there. They were late or untested or not working. So it's been quite, as you said, a struggle, but it's been the good type of challenge because I've been learning personally the in and out of every process, every bits and pieces. So also for example, like the build and deployment process that it's now done automatically, that is fantastic. Used to be something that we used to do manually, step by step, and each one of the deployments was manual, so which meant staying up and running overnight to deploy code to make sure that everything was ready in the morning. So interesting, but at least now whenever something goes wrong, you know what's under the hood, so it helps you tackle any issue down the road. How
early were you in the first like editions that you worked on? Live
on the 365 suite. Yep. It was AX7 CTP7.
All right, yeah. Early days.
Oh, very early days.
Yeah, I think there was CTP 5 or 6, the one first I tampered with installing. Well, that was that was more than 2 years ago, was it? But anyway, yeah.
The actual first CTP, I think, was around March 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But the one that we started working with this customer was later in the day. Was around the first time I've been to Bellevue was in August 2 years ago.
But to what extent would you say that Microsoft has been like involved with your onboarding and resolving your issues?
They've been really, really helpful. So they've been following us every step of the road. They've been giving us, Microsoft has for 365 a specific team of solution architects, and which they basically assign to every one of these major projects. And you've got your SA, so it's a person you can talk to, and it's a person with direct access to the R&D team. So any fix that is not something that you have to deploy, you can agree with them, and it might become something that is part of the main product. So some things that you see now as part of the product in the resource shadow have been part of the discussion that we had during the last 2 years with Microsoft, and they, because were good suggestion, was something that someone else might have found useful, they just included it in the mainstream product.
Right. Right, so they would be like, you would be like doing screen sharing with them, and they would be hands-on on the system and resolving issues. And
not only, because we had an architect that was based in England, so we had multiple times him being on site, doing data migration with us, doing fixes, and interfacing directly with the US guys for fixes overnight or anything. So it was very, very good support.
Right. So is there like anything you would like recommend if anyone was like doing onboarding now and onwards? Would it be like anything in particular you would like recommend focusing on as part of this? And
Yes, absolutely. In terms of the new onboarding, because since we did our first project, things have changed. We have many other projects in the pipeline that we are working on 365, and the onboarding process has slightly changed. So basically now you are contacted by someone on the fast track team that until that happens, you can't do anything basically. You cannot deploy environments, you cannot do anything specific. It's like your LCS project is locked down. And still I think Microsoft needs to improve a bit under the first engagement. They should be a bit more proactive and push customers and say, look, if you don't do the first engagement, there is not much you can do. Let's just do it as soon as you buy the license or a week afterwards, so we can get the ball rolling on all the other activities that usually there are in a project.
So have you done any additional customer implementations beyond this one on the tap?
Yes, we are not live, but we have multiple projects that we are doing implementations on 365. We're, of course, different challenges, different features, different modules used. So
yeah. And would you say because I'm going to assume that now with the new customers, you're not live with them, but you're in the progress of getting them somewhere. The process and the functionality has matured into a more customer-friendly and partner-friendly experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Still, it's a full product suite, right? You've got the old CRM and the old AX coming together in these enterprise operations and finance editions with sales and everything. So it's becoming a beast. So the actual approach that you have as a consultant, as an architect in the projects has changed, because you don't need to focus only on one product, but you need to focus on which product could suit the best the functionality or the actual technical workload that you want to achieve. Some things might be able to be achieved using CRM, for example, or using operations. It really depends on the case-by-case scenario.
Have you done any cross-application business processes?
We are starting a major one now, and we actually have one that we started doing, but it's not live yet, but still. As I said, it's an evolving beast. So every time you do something, or you might want to design and build a specific interface, Microsoft might release it a week after. So you just have to try and leverage off every contract you have, every contact, every people you know on the R&D team, try to get some info out.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, they're quite available, quite open, giving you answers. So
yeah, that's good. And Volker, I've seen you've been fairly active on the Yammer groups. I've seen you asking questions and responding, and you've also been part of an onboarding story, not yet live yet, but could you share your experience? And
yeah, sure, pretty much. And after what Luca said, I would have come to Yammer right away, because I think the Microsoft people, they got more responsive since we changed to IX7 or operations now, or whatever it'll be named in the future. And I think that's what they planned to do originally, to get more involved with partners and customers right away. So, and Yammer is one channel they're using since we started going on to the new product. And I think it's one of the best forums to be using, because you're pretty close to the Microsoft guys, and they're very responsive there. Yeah.
They're active on responding if you ask questions. It's almost like they do it like part of their the routine is they check the Yammer groups for questions.
Mm-hmm.
They're much more responsive, not only to just the partner apparatus, but also into directly with the customers. We talked to the guy down at he's also an MVP. No, he's not an MVP. That was what was his name? The German guy who was living in UK now. Tommy, go on. help me out with his name.
A German guy living in
the
UK,
working for a customer. He had actually a meeting
yeah.
with. Here we go.
Okay, I don't know. I don't remember his name either. So
No, there we go. There was a pretty. He's active in the community, but he's had a customer, and he's a freelance guy. Short name.
I should know him, right? If he's German.
Well, he was basically, he told us a story that his family was originally from Germany for like 400 years ago, but his parents went to live in that was born in Russia, I think. And then you can actually, if you're German, you can just say, well, we have a German inheritance, so we can just go back to Germany, and you'll get a citizenship immediately. You don't have to do so. If you have some type of a family tree that goes into a German, you can become German overnight, I guess.
Was speaking at the AXUG summit.
He was. Short name.
Thank you so much for because now I'm gonna
post this name. I'm gonna post this name in blinking lights right up here when we doing the post edit. It's gonna blink right here.
Bringing him on the show.
Yeah. But so long story now, but they actually got to talk to Mike Ehrenberg, where he sat down in the round table with the customers, and he said it was kind of like a sales pitch, but to get that close to customers, I think he would get some pretty honest answers out of the customers, and that's pretty cool. That's where they kind of taking this now, and launching the Dynamics 365 on AXUG was kind of also a signal that they want to be closer to the customer front. Do you feel scared about the partner solutions now being, because if you're a customer now, you can go to CSP, or you can become a CSP on your own and then just buy a license and you're ready to go. You don't have to go through a partner basically to run this, and the documentation is so good. And where's the partners going to be in 20 years?
Yeah, actually, that was one thing I thought about when they told us about what their plans are with AX7. So maybe I need to little explain more about the journey we had, because Tommy, you said that we're not live with the customer, and that's right. We're just about going live now, but as I said, we have this huge ISV solution, and with the status as global ISV, we were involved very early in the process of upgrading our product to AX7. And actually, I attended the first CDP that was back in the beginning of 2015. So that was like a moment in time where they did not have the product like anywhere close to finished or something, so they were just showing some like forms and stuff like that, and it was more like them telling us about what the journey is going to be like, and that they want to really work very closely with the partners, and that's what they did since then, and still they are doing this, and that's pretty good, I would say. And since the release of the product, they bring in all the customers and the fast track things and stuff like that. So I think what they learned from like the move from AX 2009 to 2012 was like they should get involved more with partners and customers too. Yeah. And I think they're doing great with that.
Exactly, because I've seen so many 2012 solutions being kind of butchered because they don't learn about the new functionality. They don't understand the complexity of the compilation issues and everything with the environments, and so a lot of solutions on 2012 has made the product really get a bad rep because the partners don't up their game when Microsoft kind of pushes forward and say, now let's take it into the new age. And so it's great that they are more on board. They got better at 2012, but they didn't kind of intervene with the projects, probably on the big customers, but not to the extent that they do now. So it's it's great. We're also on a couple of fast track programs, right, Tommy? Or you've had some experience early with that?
Yeah, we to begin with, we were like had to, because you have to start off with, I don't know if it's 20 users you have to bring on in order to just get off, and it could be that you're not going to do the live until like more than a year ahead in time, so that could be a lot of money to start off with. But I don't know. The fast track experience is nice. It's good that they're sharing webinars and information, and we get access to certain resources at Microsoft. Obviously, as an MVP, you get access to resources anyway, but and also you probably do that through being part of the TAP and the early programs and the previews, and also that Microsoft has allowed a lot of partners and ISVs to reach out through the Yammer groups. So there are a lot of different places you can go to get information and get your questions answered. But I'm also I have to admit that sometimes I'm a little bit concerned that you think that you're actually getting a finished product or something as finished as some of the earlier versions of AX was, and then you find that it's not really that finished yet. But I have to. It's honorable that you started off with the TAP as early as you did 2 years ago, Luca, and also that. I mean, I work with a smaller partner, so we don't have that luxury that we can actually go in and set aside a couple of 2-3 people that will work 100% with AX7, and we sort of have to push forward to wait until the product is more mature before we invest into it. And I think and I believe all the partners are in that same space. So, yeah.
It's all about finding the customer, right? Because you got to find somebody who's willing to take the risk with you.
That's true.
Exactly. It's more, the hardest part is finding the right client with the right approach, with the right mindset. Because, I mean, I've been doing the TAP program also in 2012. And trust me, I don't know if you've been involved in any TAP program in 2012. Oh, this was a walk in the park compared to that one. 2012 was they released a product that wasn't finished, wasn't fully tested, and was an absolute disaster. It's been really painful.
I heard that the first versions of AX 2012 was actually split with 2 databases before it was one database.
Yes, yeah. It was one model store, and the other one was the database, the data database. Was crazy. First version was crazy. In fact, they actually released R1. They released the R2 after 6 months, and that was the actual version. Right.
Yeah. We had one implementation with the R0 without the feature pack. Only to discover that we should have included the feature pack as part of the release. And we had maybe a couple of customers with R1, and then we just went, and then we had some live implementations that was just at the point in time where R2 was released, and we said, I'm sorry, we just have to go with R2. We cannot stay with R1. And that was a really nice decision in retrospect. But but those customers and those implementations we're working with AX7 now is customers who are on par and on board with the fact that it's a journey, and we have to work with Microsoft, close with Microsoft on getting there, basically. So I wanted to ask you all guys also what your experience is with upgrading code, because you are technical consultants, and I'm going to assume that you've have some experience with the code upgrade. And I know a lot of people out there are thinking about all their code base and their investments, and probably customers are all thinking about that. What is the code upgrade experience? And there's a lot of information about it, but what is your in the field's experience with it. And you can start, Luca, if you want to.
Sure. So far, we've been kind of lucky because we've been moving on to implementations where you had to redevelop things, or was either a transition for another product, or was a customer that decided to take the chance to regroup and start over with a different product, reorganizing the entire enterprise architecture. So we've been really lucky from that perspective. But I think Volker as an ISV, I worked with an ISV before, and I think Volker with the ISV experience can help you a lot more than I can in terms of upgrade, because they've been going through multiples.
Yeah.
Actually only one, but we did several iterations over the code base after, because, well, it was not perfect back in the days when we did it, but actually we upgraded our solution on CTP7, I think, and we work closely with the team that owns the code upgrade service. So yeah, it was an early stage, and but already it was working pretty good. So there's lots of things going on. So when you think of code upgrade from AX 2012 to AX7 or operations, it's like there's a service that's running on Azure that does like everything for you. You're on AX 2012 with your code, and it's like the model. You have the model store, and it consists of objects that are like what were those files called? XPO files, or I don't even remember. Oh. But you put in the model store, and it consists of some structure you have under version control when you work with version control and things like that. You put it in there, and it creates a whole lot of XML files that are the new code base for AX7, and well, it's like magic, and they like reorganize everything for you. So there's the new concepts with packages, and the models are in packages, and they have references to each other, and from month to month, you could say right now, after the platform updates are coming monthly, the whole application gets more split up. It gets split up more and more, and well, the code upgrade service, it's so intelligent. It takes customizations from one object you did before, and it puts them to an extension even to the right model it creates for you in the correct package. And I mean, that's amazing. And it integrates with version control already, which is good, because Microsoft now forces us to use version control.
Forces us to do a couple of things that we should have done in 2012, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, so okay. So you used the LCS service from the beginning. You didn't do any like copy paste code. You used the LCS service right away.
Yes, actually, we worked with Microsoft on developing that service, and yes, I don't think there's a different way. If you have a big solution or any solution you want to upgrade, you need to use the code upgrade service on LCS, yes.
Mm. But did you like let it rinse through your code once and bring it over to TFS version control, and then you break it up again in your... Did you like take parts from the end result and build a new solution, and what did you do with it, the end result? Did you use it as is?
Yeah, right. You need to, if you go from 2012 to AX7, it's a one-time process, and that's what we did. So we stopped developing on an AX 2012, upgraded everything to AX7, and well, put some mark on version control on AX 2012. Of course, development there was done after too. But there's at that time there was no incremental thing like I have done something on AX 2012. Please give me the changes I made in the meantime and put them to AX 7. Then that didn't work. I don't know if they managed to do so right now, but I don't think so. So what we did basically was upgrading to AX7, do some development iterations on the new code base to make it work properly, and another team was working on AX 2012 still, and well, we revisited all the implementations they did and moved them on manually.
Right. Yep. Right. That's perfect. And also, is there anything you can think of from the top of your head that you would emphasize as part of the code upgrade story? Things that you would, if I were to do it again, I would probably not do this and that.
No, actually, no. It works like very good. I would. There are some things that don't work as good as they could probably, but I'm not sure they improved from week to week, you could say. And there are these little tricks we needed to do, but things changed in the meantime because they locked the platform and foundation models. So that got things much harder. I don't know what the code upgrade service does right now. I assume that it's still, if you have a customization to, let's say, the batch class or something, which sits in foundation, I think they'll still put it there, right, and put it to a model that is in foundation. That was what was going on back then. Yeah. And the outcome today would be that you couldn't compile it simply. Yeah. So you've kept yourself up to date with the latest platform. So it's platform 6 now, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. And also, I mean, I can obviously probably, this is an easy question. What would you say is your experience with the new development developer story? You working with Visual Studio? Do you like that? Who do you ask? I'm asking both. I know the answer though. Well, it's not perfect yet. There's still room for improvement, but the move from the AX 2012 development experience to Visual Studio is like you need to love it, of course.
Did you have any experience with working with those types of tools before? What's your background in development? So did you work with Visual Studio before you get into AX? Because working with AX, you don't have to kind of. Yeah, that's true. If you started kind of getting into development at AX3, you probably didn't touch. Did you touch Visual Studio? No. And no, right. So
no, actually, when you were at 3.0, you had to touch Visual Studio just to, if you wanted to build like mobile stuff, on the old compact framework, you had to use Visual Studio at the time. But things have changed. I've been, I would say, lucky, but I'm not sure the lucky is the right word, involved in every mobility project I've done in every partner I work with since the 3.0 version. So now it's much easier. Microsoft is providing tools, is helping a lot. But in terms of IDE, from my experience, we had to start using VSO Studio for AX developers in 2012 for reports, which was kind of the first experience. Now it's getting more structure. You got a separate set of tools you can use. It's a very powerful tool, right? It is not the AX 2012 IDE for development anymore, thank God.
That's what I would. Yep. That's what I would say too. AX 2012 MorphX IDE integrated Visual Studio already for like report development, and there were actually there were C# projects already
Yes.
integrated to the IoT, but the integration was not like perfect, to be like honest. That changed a lot, of course, because now everything is in Visual Studio. All your code base is on your disk, right? And that's a big improvement now.
Yeah.
You don't need to change between IDEs if you want to change a report, things like that.
The only thing is, if you want to just discuss the downside, might be that you used to be able to put straight onto a dev machine 6 developers, just buying the RDS licensing. Now you're moving on to a 1 dev machine per developer, so the kind of cost from that in that perspective is kind of growing. But it's also growing the benefit, right? Everything is isolated. No one is like crashing the development environment AOS, so that everyone else is losing their developments. It's more like moving into I would say, more structured, more serious approach.
Yeah, I think that was part of the stepping stone with AX 2012, is that people were using AX 2012 in the same fashion they used AX 2009, and also on thinking on development. But that would cause potentially, like, someone added a breakpoint on the iOS and crashed the entire iOS, but otherwise all the developers were trying to do their stuff on the same environment. No, that's not going to work. And when I told people that, well, you need 1 AX 2012 environment per developer, they were like, no way, that's not going to happen. But yeah.
There were some very creative solutions for sharing development on AX 2012 environments, right? We did one too, because at some point you get out of VMs. We tried to attach 1 virtual machine at least to every developer, but when it comes to customer projects, it's not possible.
No. I gotta ask one question though. Are you like heavily invested on running AX 7 in the cloud or on-prem? It goes to both of you, I guess.
Well, the customer project we're working on right now definitely is a cloud project. Obviously, I think all of them are. But there are lots of prospects in the pipeline willing to work only on-prem. So it was very good that they decided to make an offer for on-prem as well, or hybrid. Right. I don't know where those customers or prospects will be in the end, but it was, I think, for the marketing part, it was very good that they announced the on-prem versions.
Yeah. It kind of it's some, I think some customers kind of came back from thinking about other, they were looking in other channels to other solutions, because they don't want to see their data in the cloud, and it isn't on-prem, it's local business data, right? So they've shown this, and they're working so much on moving. I've seen they did a demo on Build as well, where they moved containers down from. They did a demo from with Docker containers, where they built them, where they had there was a demo from a Swedish company, a manufacturing company that uses IoT, and they had some machines in the cloud, and there were like 2,000 milliseconds or something delay to the cloud service, and then they just clicked a couple of buttons and they moved these containers down. It's probably a very thought out demo, and they probably did it a couple of times before they showed it. But so they clicked a couple of buttons and they moved everything down to the machine, and the latency went down to like 10 milliseconds. And so they're working a lot on moving things from the cloud down to on-prem solutions, and it's cool to see that kind of the, let's call it AX, is being on the forefront of that, and using a lot of technology and kind of demanding, like, we need this functionality to be on-prem. If not, we're not going to sell this product. So, but they're locked in, right? So you need Power BI, you need these things to be running locally. And right now we're seeing the business cases where they they now are offering Power BI as a local service. They're also doing a lot of different type of container extraction locally. So it's interesting to see how it goes. I'm just afraid that if you have multi-site companies, you won't be able to run this within one legal entity. You need different legal entities for each edge installation. There's a couple of things there that might not be fully possible to do. I think you maybe have to do some reorg before that. But it's interesting, right? So the product is moving forward on the forefront of technology.
What about development? Do you do your ISV development on-prem or in cloud, or?
Well, that's an interesting question because we're still doing it on-prem. We bought some servers for IX 2012 development back then, and we're still moving them forward. So you have always two options. You need to have one virtual machine per developer at least. And this is how we work today too. And there's an option to simply deploy a development machine to Azure through LCS, Lifecycle Services. And it works like perfect, but you need to pay for them. And the second option you have is to download a Hyper-V image, and those images, they come a little later than the Azure machines, but they're pretty good. Microsoft is doing a good job there too. The setup is a little different, and if there are bugs, they're always on the downloadable ones.
Yes.
But still, we're using them.
Yeah.
Simply because we have the hardware for it, and it's cheaper for us to go that way. Right. Which is also one of the arguments customers have to argue that they need to have an on-prem system because they have existing hardware. They did a big invest and stuff like that, and they don't want to move to the cloud yet.
Right. Yeah. And they are perhaps not totally confident in cloud being the best option for their business, I guess.
Yeah.
What about you? Yeah.
I think they have some kind of fear putting their business data to the cloud and things like that. But actually, in my opinion, that's more like common sense or something, that it's unsafe to have data in the cloud, because actually I don't think it's more unsafe to have it in the cloud than in a local data center. I think it's the other way around, actually, because the big data centers like Azure, they are maintained very well, and the operating systems there are on the current version and things like that. I didn't hear of any data center suffering from the WannaCry thing that was going on last week, right?
You haven't heard any
AWS data centers.
There's no AWS, there's no Azure, there's nothing. It is all about local old installation that hasn't been updated. That's basically what it is. So like if you wanted to get some, if you're like a major company that has like super secret things inside of your data vault that is connected to the internet somehow, and somebody knows where it is, it's like doing a physical break-in and just snagging that box and running off with it is much easier. Try and find that exact server on that Azure data storage. Like coming into there is like million servers. Like, we need that hard drive. It's
not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. It's more secure to be in the cloud.
I think based on the experience and the discussion I had with the clients and prospects so far, it's not like an actual fear of my data in the cloud. It's more that, as Volker said, is they spent millions on data centers 3 years ago, And because 3 years ago, of course, you didn't know about a cloud application, right? You said 2012, there will be a 2014, which will be bigger, better, still on-prem, nothing will change. And Microsoft did this major shift onto the cloud version. So everyone has been like, yeah, well, I just spent $2 million to redoing my data center or extending it. So what am I going to do? So you need to find the right compromise at that point. But other clients are more concerned about, you know, the legal side of things. Like I can't leave data in the cloud because from a legal perspective, I'm a public company. I can't do this, I can't do that. Can you guarantee that Microsoft is up to date with all the security features and everything? The answer is always yes, but of course, it's because the cloud world is like this abstract concept that people are kind of struggling with it, right? Especially if you put then public cloud, then it becomes a major issue because the word public is like, what does that mean? What kind of public?
But again, it kind of isn't, because when you create your data centers, you always have like a physical awareness of where that data center is. We create a new server, you know where it is. And you, Valdemar, probably been, oh, yeah, we go, Valdemar.
Yeah,
I'm going to talk about Valdemar because I have him here. This is the guy that I was talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, Volker. You live in Germany, and you recently got a data center up and running. Have you had any like German companies doing where they want to be local, or you've seen some cloud adoption now being more
Black Forest?
Yeah, but because there's some German legal issues, because I think Germany is the only country now that has this local data center run by Deutsche Telekom, right?
Because Germany is the country which is said to have the hardest regulations when it comes to the data center things and stuff like that. And actually, I'm not so much involved in the discussions with our prospects when it comes to the legal stuff, of course. So, but yeah, obviously, Microsoft built a data center in Germany because of that. And because everyone in the world knows that the German regulations are the hardest and the toughest to fulfill. And now they have 2 data centers here because they need to have one and the backup one. And well, I think that's good. I'm not sure if they provide Dynamics 365 in there already. They didn't when it started back in November, I think.
Not yet.
Not yet. But it's
not
coming.
Even in UK, you can deploy like single machines, pre-production environments, but the actual Microsoft Cloud, which is the one that you have the production environment onto, it's not yet available in these countries.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
They're starting rolling out
right?
CRM at the moment, so 365, pure 365 at the moment. But operations, it's coming, it's on the roadmap.
Yeah,
it should be there soon, and I think it's a good sign for like everyone. And I think actually German companies are under some regulations that might force them into a need for this.
Yep.
The project right now we're working on and go live in a couple of weeks is based in Switzerland and Austria, and it looks like the regulations there are not as hard as in Germany.
Switzerland.
You put it
pretty...
in the Netherlands.
So they will run in Western Europe.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Western Europe, yeah, that's Netherlands, and Northern is Ireland. Makes perfect sense. Have you guys played anything at all with the CDS, the Common Data Services? Luca, have you played with it?
Yes, I did. We hosted a client event a few months back where we did like a full set on solution with the IoT Hub and built the power-ups consuming data on the SQL Azure fed with the IoT Hub about printing and predictive maintenance, basically. About printers was kind of the example of an HP printer that's sending signals to the cloud. And the CDS was kind of the backend where we collected all the data to show on a Power App. It was kind of a really client event, so we shown all the capabilities of the full-blown suite of all the tools available at the moment. But as as I was telling you before, CDS is really good idea. And the actual idea of the common data model is not new, because it's been around since probably the 80s. The actual idea of applying it to enterprise product is interesting, challenging, but interesting, because of course you got multiple products with multiple structures and different way of managing, IDs, also just CRM, and let's call it AX just for the ease of the conversation. But they have completely different way of managing the primary keys, IDs, and the CDS has even another way of dealing with it. So it's kind of a hybrid between the two. So it's, as I said, challenging, but it's a very powerful tool, especially if you couple it up with the SDK they just released, or with Logic Apps, or with, I wouldn't say Flow, but with Flow too. So it's kind of part of a stack of technologies that you can leverage on, and it's making definitely life easier. If I think about, I give you a stupid example, like 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, if you wanted to build a tool that was sending a text message, right, once you receive an email, or once you write a line in Leads, for example, you had to write like loads of code, very complicated, and have your own, set with the SIM card to make it work. It was really complicated. Now you can use, CRM, use Logic Apps, and say whenever a lead is created, call the Twilio API to send a message, and it's like a click of a mouse away. And it's making life definitely easier. So bringing together all these APIs and using, as Fredrik was saying, the common data service as the underlying structure.
Yeah,
not for the transactions, but for the entities, like sales orders and customers, and anything that you really want to create. Yeah,
and Microsoft has committed to actually creating a lot of the entities themselves, so they're bringing on standard entities to the CDS, so that actually, let's call it AX and CRM can talk together, and you can bring out this to your other. Have you worked with the CDS at all?
Well, actually, yes. Of course, we have that under investigation, I would say, and whenever you need to exchange data with some other application, you should consider it. And you need to, I think what Luca said is absolutely true. And I would like to add that I have the feeling that it's not only a good option, which is an addition, but Microsoft might go for CDS as a central component of all the Dynamics 365 apps that are coming in the future too. That is the central part to integrate all of them. So I can think of a future where you use CDS as a central part for integrating parts of NAV and AX. So which then might come back to using NAV for financials and AX for the other operations, things like that. And those guys might split up AX to its parts, like, well, the sales part, and you can only have one application that does only sales quotations or
right.
Things like that. And integrating with a whole different Power app that does the processing of that or the printing, and those integrate through CDS. I think that might something they want to do, and it's going to be interesting to see what comes around CDS. Yes.
Have you poked into, because I believe the underlying technology here is actually the AX technology. Yeah, that too, but also the basically a lot of the platform features coming from the AX development. So
yeah, I read that too.
The same components you have in operations are actually built underneath the hood for the CDS, and I find that very interesting because I have to admit, the first time I saw the IoT back in 2009, I was like, wow, you can use this for whatever. It doesn't have to be an ERP system. You can build almost whatever software on this, because the abstractions and how you abstract the persisting of data and how easy it is to build code and glue this together, and all the UI and everything. It binds all of this together beautifully. And even now with AX7 and the application tree and the models you have in AX7, it's a very beautiful story for building applications. And this wouldn't necessarily be, shouldn't be limited to just AX. You should be able to use it for all sorts of systems, professional systems.
It's not limited to an ERP, right? And
exactly.
Actually, that's something which Microsoft asked us when we were on site for an early CTP, and they showed us that they're going to split the application up in platform, foundation, and application suite, what it was back then. And that was actually the question they asked. So guys, what do you think? If we provide you with only the platform, is that a good idea to have it and be able to build an application on only the platform without all the ERP stuff? So they were considering this 2 years ago already. And yeah, still, I think it's a good idea. You can use the framework for almost like everything. It's very easy to build an actually great web application on the basis of AX, what it is today.
Yeah, perhaps the only, because one thing that you sort of throw away when if you think about previous versions of AX, if you wanted just to build some application that has some business logic, you want to support some sort of business logic, and that's basically all you want to do. Maybe you don't want to spend too much time on the aesthetics, on how things look. So you are sort of with the AX store development, or at least if you do it like a best practice, you sort of keep all the UI looking similar throughout the application. And you could argue that with the developer story with AX7, you are sort of locked into what you can do in the UI, even though there's a lot of things you can do. But still, if you would just want to build an app, okay, so if I want using AX development, I would sort of bring in perhaps some components, some technology for persisting data, and some other components or technology for the UI. Maybe I want to have a UI that has a lot of gamification on it and animations and what have you. And then I probably wouldn't use UI component A. I would use UI component or technology B instead. So maybe you are a little bit locked in with the AX development framework, but for the most part, I think that it's a very good framework for building applications. So
yeah, most definitely, and you can, well, even the more sophisticated stuff you can do with extensible controls and things like that. But if you want to build an application that has some standardized form with some pattern behind it, AX is just perfect. And I think that's something which made AX strong before. One of the biggest strengths of AX always was like you don't have to care too much about the UI. It's more like you describe the UI by metadata, right? And it was like that in 2009, and I think in AX4, I don't know actually because I didn't work with AX4, but I think it was like that ever since. And that enabled Microsoft to provide us with the great new application we see today, because the UI it looks so different, but actually we didn't need to do anything for it. Everything was upgraded right away. So we went from this very, very Windows desktop bound application, which AX 2012 was, to the web. And actually there was very little to do, because all the UI was described as metadata, and they found a way to translate it to still metadata, and it didn't change a lot. The forms still look the same in the development environment, and the rendering is very different. It's easy to get used to it, but it looks much more modern. And I think that's because IX has the strength of the metadata described UI.
Yeah. I think it was so cool when you got the story now, when you go into web, and what they did with 2012 by changing that tabular view into this long list of fast tabs. Looking at it now, it's just, oh wow, that was a good decision, because it's so easy now to do a porting from 2012 into this web environment instead of having, because I've seen other web application that uses this tabular form. It is awful. It doesn't look good at all, and it's so hard to kind of get the big overview. And the way that it flows with the UI now, with everything is just one long list, and you can do shortcuts and everything. It is smart. Somebody needs a big pat on the back for doing that. But when we got 2012, it's like, what's happening? It's just a long list. It's awful. At least that was my kind of initial feeling about it, but it makes so much sense now.
Also because, remember, from an application and platform perspective, Microsoft, I read and I heard, it looks like it's going to be official soon. Microsoft will lock down also the application soon.
Yep.
It's official already.
It is.
It's official already. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, 2018, they're going to lock it. So it's soft seal, and going to hard seal it later.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you will be able to run on a soft sealed version for a year after the. So you can, I think you can run in 12 months on an outdated version per se. So another thing I'd like to ask you guys is because another thing I found kind of interesting with the AX development story is that, so you would have the end user experience so close up to the developer story, because everything is metadata driven, and you could basically change any metadata and just save it, and it would compile, and then you would be able to see it right away. And even you could take it as far as going directly into production and change something in the live system immediately. Just like you have, I mean, you would probably look at them and just squaring with, no, you wouldn't do that. Obviously you wouldn't do that, but you could do that in AX and 2012. You could do that. It wouldn't be recommended. You could do it in Navision as well. But now with AX7, it's a hard cut between the meta and the runtime, basically. So they're going directly away from the ability to rinse and repeat your change and have a look at it. So now you would obviously do it locally on your own box through the developer experience, but you don't have that direct link anymore. How do you feel about that? It's now, there's a distance, there's a clear distance between the end user experience and the developer story.
I think that, in my view, it's now becoming like a proper approach, right? While we moved away from I want to debug the code in production to see what's wrong, to no, wait, you just restore data onto another environment and then you debug it, which is like the proper approach, right? Because it's not good to debug production, and you could in the old 2012 you could prevent everyone from doing something if there was a debug breakpoint at some point, maybe on a posting process. It was a bit tricky and dangerous, right? Metadata, the actual splitting between metadata and the runtime is very good, but also I'd like to add about the personalizations. So what they started with 2012 and now they moved on to with 365 is that you actually can have users personalize the forms, adding new fields, moving fields, how they want to see them, what's the order, hiding tabs, hiding methods, adding whatever you want to hide from a UI perspective and apply to multiple users without any development effort. And once you deploy a new version of the form, you don't have to rerun these personalizations, because otherwise it's crashing and you can have cache issues. You just move on to a word where the three words are just merged together in a unique experience, right? So it's a very, very good technology they've been using, and I'm always all for avoiding debugging production.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. And after you talked about personalization, I would like to add that they came up with a very good new feature with Platform Update 5, I think. Since then, it's possible now to define personalizations and actually provide a group of users with those personalizations per form and things like that. And that's a big improvement and something that was missing until now. I think because it's great if users are able to personalize forms as much as they want to, but it's horrible for support, right?
Yeah,
because you need to know where you are and what they do.
And if you develop if there's new functionality that is added to that form, and they've done some rendition of this form, which is not company specific, and you introduce a new field, and you kind of say, well, if you want, or if it's just a new field, they can add it. But if there's functionality and stuff that's added to it, they kind of have to just, well, let's reset all the customization that they've done, and then somebody's going to call the IT department at the customer and saying, what happened? Where's my button?
Somebody's going to scream.
Oh,
yeah. Here's everything.
Have you had that experience, by the way, that all the end user customizations have been deleted? Anybody?
No, we didn't, actually. Because our customers are, we advise them not to allow users to personalize their forms themselves, right?
Wise decision.
No, we actually had people using personalizations on forms, and you just have to follow the process, right? And make sure that is rather than being user personalization, is like company-wide personalization. So you've got them to agree what fields they don't want to see, and instead of actually doing development to hide them, you just do the personalization that gives you the same result in 5 minutes.
Yep. And
there's one interesting technical aspect to the improvement of the personalization story. I think, Luca, you mentioned that upgrading forms right now works better than before, and personalizations integrate seamlessly to different states of forms when an application upgrade happens. And
yes.
That's something that was, I think, inherited from the changes they did under the hood for the extensions we do for forms. So we talked about the whole application will get logged, and Microsoft not only advises us but forces us into a world where we do not customize things anymore, but extend only. And with the move from AX 2012 to AX 7, they changed from those XPO files to XML, but it was not like only the switch from one file format to another, but the whole structure of how they described what a customization or then later an extension is changed, and the personalization works quite similar, I would think. So it's more like in the early days there was like at position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there's a new element, and right now it's described more precisely. There's an element, it comes after that element and before the other one, and so upgrades are more likely to work, and that made extensions possible in the first place. Yeah.
And they've added more features to the language itself, and they've also added new patterns in X7 so how you as a developer can sort of implement your customizations without overriding the Microsoft code. So how do you feel that story is today? Is it complete, or is it still in the same journey?
I would no, clearly it's not complete at all. Technically, so the tooling we have right now is very good, and they're still improving it, and then they did a lot on the extension story in the last couple of months. And with every update you get new features and things like that. I'm still missing map extensions, guys. So if you want to come up with that. Just had that yesterday, I think. I was asked for how do I extend the map? I have the need for it, and I said, oh, it's not possible right now. So that's something that is missing still, but the tooling is has gone very far. What they are now going on to is to provide us with more hooks in the application, so we can use delegates at places where usually people do customizations inside some long code block or method. And they're very active on that side, and again working with partners that have some kind of bigger ISV solutions, and also with customers and customer implementations. So yeah, they do a lot and restructure things under the hood, so we can go on and actually free our application suites, right? Because we need to get rid of all the customizations. And well, honestly, right now it's not possible in all the places, but the tooling is very near to be complete, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. But about that, when the webhooks, the hooks and the delegates that they create now, because they sit on a lot of telemetry and they know where, like, sales order form is typically something that is customized and extended. But I think also they pull a lot of information from the tooling that they have now. So if somebody runs a code upgrade through the process, they pull out and see where do they have these hooks. And I also think they aggregate this. So if somebody out there hasn't already took their code and tried to just ram it through this without so seeing what objects they touch, and they get telemetry from that, and I think they will pick up on that. So if somebody hasn't run through that code upgrade process, they could just pull it in there, and if you're not using it for anything or gonna complete that story, at least put it in there so that Microsoft knows where your pains are, because that's where they probably get a lot of information. And if they don't know where your hooks are needed, they won't create them either.
Absolutely. I feel that Microsoft became much more open in terms of helping us as partner and customers with these sort of processes that used to be very, very painful in the past. So I think the more that we can do and test and break things, the more these tools will get better, right? It's not a matter of being like scared of using these tools. It's rather than using them, breaking them, providing info to Microsoft so they can fix it, and will make our life so much easier.
Yep.
Yeah, and nowadays something that, well, it feels like it has changed, and I think it actually has, is that you get heard when you talk to them, right? And in the past, when you talk to AX developers and you said, well, that's something Microsoft should consider doing and things like that, often you got the answer that, well, we don't want to talk to them because they don't do anything for us, and that completely changed, I would say. So in my feeling, they really hear what partners and customers tell them, and they're going for it. Fredrik, you talked about the telemetry, and that's interesting because actually they're pulling out of the code upgrade service where all the customizations sit, and I don't know if they have the data from the customization analysis reports. When you create them, I think there's some telemetry created as well. But actually, that only tells them where customizations are, and they get a feeling about it where. But the thing is, they need to know what the customizations are. And so sometimes they come to us and ask, guys, what is it with this or that part of the application? What did you do? And you see that on Yammer even. So Microsoft guys asking, we've seen telemetry at, I don't know, sales invoice posting, and you guys do customizations there. What are you actually doing there? Because the knowledge about that in a particular class are customizations doesn't tell them what they need to provide as delegates and things like that. So, but they're very, very involved in the process of talking to customers and partners right now. And yeah,
but it's a necessity, right? They need to be as involved with the partners and customers. Otherwise, this probably wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, right. It would explode if when they tell then that the application suite is locked now and you don't have any chance to customize it anymore, and existing applications are like waste.
But do you find yourself still like submitting feedbacks to Microsoft on, I need this enum extendable, I need a hook here, I need a hook there?
Yeah, we had discussions with them about what the right channels for communicating things like that are, and it was like going back and forth. But now we have a good solution to put in and chip in small requirements, like we need this enum to be extensible because of that.
Is that where do you go
Connect
to use that?
or IDs?
Connect is out. You have ideas, ideasdynamics.com, right?
Right.
Is that where you should go if you have any?
Ideas.dynamics.com isn't meant for things like I need this enum to be improved. It's more like for ideas you have, like a feature that would improve the application, and not so much the technical stuff. This is more like, Connect is one channel you can use for bringing in things like that. I need a delegate there because of that, and this enum to be extensible. Yeah.
You can use either Yammer, I've used in the past, or you can just, as I said, because of the tab, we have this access to the Microsoft people. You just start spamming each and every one of them, try to get some answers. But one of the example of the Microsoft involvement lately is that, for example, we had multiple prospects and customers interested in the mobile framework, and I tried to reach out to the program manager for this program, and they've been more than open to actually schedule sessions with me, with us as QuantiQ, and just hear us out on the possible improvements they can make and what the customers are looking for, what are the concerns, why they would adopt the platform, and what are the reasons to use that platform compared to, for example, Concur or other comparison, for example, in time and attendance. So they're very, very open to listen to the partners and customers. So it's very, very, very good.
Yep.
Yeah, but also going back to all of the hooks and the delegates, and they're adding code to make it possible for us to connect customizations without overwriting their code, because there's a lot of legacy code in the system right now coming from the old world where there was a cost with splitting up your code into multiple methods. There was a cost of going from the server tier to the client tier, and so you would have some code that would be like a huge chunk of code with lots of logic in the same method. You find them rewriting those methods into smaller methods, or do they add new code that takes over, or what does Microsoft do there? What have you seen so far?
Luca?
Yeah, it really depends on the option, right? What you have, for example, for events is that you can create classes to extend it, and then you write what your event should do either before, during, or after the actual standard method. So you got different hooks in different cases, and depending, as Volker said, on the object. So not all of them were available so far. So they are putting stuff in every month in, month out. So it's coming together with the platform updates. So you got multiple things on a monthly basis. So with major changes sometimes on a monthly basis, and it's very, very, very good. And what the official statement is that these platform upgrades are painless. And I've been through a couple now, and they actually are. because of course you can't touch the platform, so there is no much you can break bringing in new versions, right?
Yeah,
but
they try not to break the public interfaces, right? So if there's a public method, it has a signature, and they try not to touch it. And so far they don't. But I expect the next actual application update to bring bigger changes throughout the application, because I know that they are restructuring things, and not only in legacy code, but in newer parts too. So there's, I know that there's some things going on in the warehouse management area, because some parts of that is very hard to extend, and we had some discussions with them, and we're told, yeah, we're redesigning some things there. And the platform updates that come every month right now, they are integrated seamlessly. It's as promised, you could say. And you can integrate them with very few, manpower. But there's the thing which is called Spring Release that was announced for April in the first place, and now I think they are
targeting. It's going to be July, potentially.
July.
Yep.
Yeah.
I expect the application to be. You'll see lots of changes there.
There is already a technical preview available, so you just have to put in some code in preview code in LCS. I think Shelley published something in the Yammer group for the technical preview, so you can just put this code into LCS in the preview section and can deploy a machine. We deployed one, and some new features are coming. They're dropping some other old features, like the Warehouse Mobility Portal on the IIS. They're changing things around, right?
Are they sticking to the roadmap? Are they sticking to the roadmap, or are they kind of ramp?
Yeah, sure. There's that page, roadmap.dynamics.com, and it's for all Dynamics products and also operations. And what's on there that is said to be on development pretty much fits to what will be in the next release.
Now, they said in 6 months, right? 6 month, everything that they put into the pipeline that is going to be ready in 6 months is going to be on this. So it's very concrete.
Monthly platform and twice a year for the application. So yes, there will be a lot of work for upgrading, doing merges when the application comes. So twice a year.
Yeah,
I think it will be lots of works until they do the locking, because after they lock the whole application, they are not allowed to break the public interfaces anymore, which is good when you got there. But until then, I think it might be painful in one or the other area.
Yeah, because you still have situations where developers not only need enums extended, but there are methods that they want to hook into, and I've seen developers comment that they're sort of using reflection to get a backdoor into private methods, and then Microsoft, wait, don't do that. That's not good practice, obviously. It's private for a reason. But then again, you could have situations where code is private, but it was intentionally meant for private, but potentially it shouldn't be private. So you could potentially have situations like that. And also see, like you said, the refactoring things, macros are still not. You cannot extend a macro, and macros are heavily used throughout some of the systems. Some of the parts of the system are using macros a lot in core parts. So for a good reason, if you think historically, but not so. We're not so happy about that right now. So, but funny you should said spring release is in July. If it was a winter release in Norway, probably would be in February, March. So seasons they don't work throughout the world. It's hopeless.
Right.
Yeah.
Tommy still got sunlight.
I got sunlight. I have had sunlight for months now. But I do have snow though. There is snow in the mountains. You don't have to go far to get 300, 400 meters up there is snow. Which is nice. I like it. I like the scenery and the color.
Very nice. Well, we're over time, guys. But
yeah,
it was really nice talking. We can talk about this for hours, right? That's
absolutely.
what we did. 2 hours. I think we got almost closing in on 2 hours. So that has to be pretty good. Thank you so much, guys.
We have plans to bring on Dave Frostley from one of the PGs, and we also want to have Martin Drob, one of the hardcore developer MVPs. So there's going to be a lot more content on developer stuff and technical stuff. That's going to be pretty cool. I also want to bring on Peter Villadsen. I know he's working with CDS. So hopefully he would be willing to join us and talk about that. That would be really cool.
Yeah, Tommy, that's...
No, we want to have him on. Absolutely.
Of course, we want to get these guys on. And I think the developer story is really, really tough. There's a lot of things. And we should get a video on Channel 9 soon, of course.
And I think Peter Wilson would be very happy to talk about macros, right?
Yeah, he loves them.
Yeah, he loves macros.
Well, very good. So, guys, where can we find you? You both do community participation. Luca, you got Luca Pelle at Twitter.
Yeah.
Where else?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on my Twitter, LinkedIn. Just look for my kind of, it's not a picture, but it's pretty accurate. So
yeah, it's
you're
a
you're active on the community
drawing.
Forum. Look.
Yeah.
I sometimes comment on the community. I participate in the X user group in UK, and I'll be joining you guys for the next conferences next year. So this year I've been holding fire because my wife is pregnant, so I'm going to be a dad soon.
Congratulations.
Next year I'll be traveling. Thank you. Next year I'll be traveling again. So next year I'll see you definitely in St. Carsten. We can all have dinner.
Very nice. And Volker, where can we find you guys?
You can find me on Twitter. I think you saw it already. It's just my name, Volker Deuss, with an ad in front of it. And, well, in the last couple of weeks, I was not that active anymore, but I run a blog. It's called Exility.net, and I wrote a lot of stuff about onboarding for X7, actually, from a technical perspective. So have a look there.
Yep.
That's very good of you.
Tommy, where's your stuff?
Yeah, at Skaue on Twitter and yet another AX.com. Still AX, AX7 all the way through.
Yeah, I've actually bought a domain where I've removed AX from so it's DynTips, dyntips.com or dynaxtips.com because I actually bought that one as well. And you can find me at AX Fredrik. Only one with the AX in my Twitter handle, but AX Fredrik at Twitter. So if you want, this podcast is distributed through all the different types of podcast networks. If you got iTunes, we have a video and an audio version of it. So if you want to have it in your car and not drive off the road, download the audio version. But you can get the video version, of course, if you have some type of iPad or iTunes account. Any other type, if you have Android or Windows phone, you'll find our podcast there as well. And of course, go visit our YouTube channel, which is DYN podcast. So youtube.com/DynPodcast, or go to dynpodcast.com to find everything about that. We do release some shorter videos. We'll try and find some good parts from this talk. There's a lot of different good parts here, but I'll try to find the best ones and do these small talks where there's just like 10 minutes or 1 to 10 minutes. Yeah.
There's one thing we need to plug, Fredrik, and that's we're going to have the very first AXUG chapter meeting in Norway just next week.
Next week, which is the 24th of May. Me and Tommy, we're going to be in Oslo. So if you're in Norway, or in Oslo at that time, stop by, go to axug.com to find everything about that. I think that's where it is. Any plans on doing talks publicly this year, guys, in the near future for you? No?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well,
I might do something to the next IX user group UK.
Well, there you go.
But I'm not sure yet.
Well,
That's good, Luca.
so follow up on axug.com. And that's it for this time. Bye, guys.
Thank
Have
you,
a nice
guys.
one. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Ciao.
Bye.